The compromise agreed between the Australian government and Facebook has been welcomed by users and is a victory, in the short term at least, for Australia's news outlets who will have their Facebook pages restored.
Well, Facebook has refriended Australia, and Australian news will be restored to the Facebook platform. And Facebook has committed to entering into good faith negotiations with Australian news media businesses in seeking to reach agreements to pay for content.
Facebook has agreed to invest tens of millions of dollars into Australia's struggling news sector. In return, it'll avoid mandatory payments that could have cost it vastly more and created what it sees as an alarming global precedent.
At the end of the day, Facebook's accepted the premise that there needs to be an accommodation between their market dominance in advertising and the public interest of having journalism and news content in Australia.
The social media giant sparked outrage last week by blocking news content for its Australian users in protest against legislation that would have forced it to pay media companies when it republished their content. Google faced the same threat but took the opposite approach, striking a deal with Rupert Murdoch's News Corp.
I think Facebook, well, in my view, might have misjudged this one, and I think the market's going to respond pretty strongly with competing places to get news. But if you're an active Facebook user, you just have to get into the habit of collecting your news from alternative platforms.
There's been years of escalating tension between governments and big tech. Many saw Facebook's blocking of Australian media as an attack on free speech and even a threat to democracy. And that could alter the road to regulation, putting companies like Facebook under more pressure than ever before. Similar laws are already being discussed in the EU and Canada.
The news ecology has been radically disrupted in the last little while, and I think there is a global appetite for regulation and a global appetite for Facebook and Google and others to pay something for the news that is linked to from their platforms, and I think this is just one step in that process.
Google and Facebook have 2 months to reach further deals with Australian news outlets and avoid being forced to pay. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.